ABSL Summit. Transform to thrive.
I'm here today thanks to these fellows, thanks to Danone. Couple of months ago, Mauro and Grzegorz contacted me and say, Jeremy, I really believe in what we are doing. And last year we were at the ABSL Summit, and I think there is something nice to share with our peers. So today it's not about Trustpair, and I swear I will try not to do my sales bullshit. I don't know if it was for me, the quick comment at the beginning. But joke aside, to talk about a very serious topic, the fraud and cyber fraud that is surrounding us. So yes, we thought it would be nice to share the journey we are having all together, Danone and Trustpair. And I'm apologizing in advance. It may be a bit less inspirational than some of the presentation you have seen or will see, but very day-to-day life. Very day-to-day life about cyber fraud, about your vendor management, generally speaking. So for the next 15 minutes, we will try, Mauro, Grzegorz, and myself, to show you that there is a way to handle and deal with the all cyber threats that we are all facing. We're going to talk 80% of the time, 90% of the time about Danone and about their project. And again, thank you for inviting us. I will make you work a little bit now. But before you jump on the phone, I will be old-fashioned. I'm sorry for that. And I will just ask you to raise your hands if you have heard about this 25 million deepfake fraud that happened the last few weeks, that unfortunately a transfer of 25 million happened. Who heard about it? Yes. It's not the kind of brand awareness you would like to see. Just to give you a short story about it, what happened is an employee ended up in a video conference with one of his boss asking him to do a 25 million wire transfer. Unfortunately, it was a deep fake. And fraud people were behind this artificial intelligence. Now, I have a second question. How many of you have received phishing emails in the last few months? Yeah, welcome in the new world. The problem is we are all connected. You have vendors, but in the same time, you are the client of someone else. So we are all connected with each other. And today we're going to talk about Danone's vendor management, but in the same time, Danone is also a vendor for someone else. So we are all connected, and if it's already tough and complicated for you to keep up to date your own data and protect your own system, now you have to think about dealing with one of your own vendors and partners. 96% of companies have been targeted by fraud last year, at least once. And more than 80% are attacked through a cyber attack. And it's going all around the place, it's increasing, and now it's at scale. So I will give now to Mauro and Grzegorz the opportunity to talk about the project, but I have a last question. Remember, a lot of you have been attacked by a phishing attempt. But now, raise your hands. How many of you trust 100% their vendor data? If you think 1 second about your ERP, your system, how many of you trust at 100% this data? No one. That's the point. Mauro, that's you now.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. So thank you also Trustpair for joining us on this presentation. I'm happy to be here. I'm in charge of master data in the business service of Danone. And master data has generally not been the sexiest topic in GBS. But a few years ago, I said to a lot of my colleagues, it would be maybe the sexiest job in the GBS one day. And I think a lot of the projects we are at the forefront of are showing this. So obviously, when we look at fraud, and we saw a presentation before, our first natural intention is to try to manage it from the transactional side. But as you know, you are like Danone, and many of the companies represented here. We have thousands of third-party vendors. And we have to work with these, interact with our vendors. We need to change their data frequently. And we need to make sure that the data we are getting is from a reliable source and is secure. The master data in itself is not the transaction. So we are just putting in the system the potential for the transaction to occur. But actually, the moment it's in our systems, it's ready to go. So people can raise a purchase order, they can start a procurement flow, they can go all the way to a payment. So unfortunately for us, there are a lot of people, more and more, trying to intercept our communications with our vendors. And obviously, as we know, we are still in a very much email-driven type of business environment, like it or not. So a lot of the emails that we are interacting with, our procurement colleagues, etc., with vendors, they can be, in fact, rerouted. And we talk a lot about cybersecurity internally. So we try to protect our house the best we can. We put our alarms, we put all the different vigilance, but we are exposed as well to the vulnerability of our ecosystem of vendors, because the third parties with whom we work might not have the same level of control. So the moment we get a request to change something, we have to be absolutely sure that we are changing the right information. And of course, we can talk a lot about data as a whole, but we are here talking really about one of the most sensitive data that we have, which is the bank information, the IBAN, this type of SWIFT coding that we need for a payment to happen, for a transaction to occur, for funds to be transferred from one company to another. And so we all know that there are very sizable transactions that happen in our companies, so we have to be absolutely sure that we are changing the data correctly. So unfortunately, we try to prevent as best we can, but when things happen is when we sometimes take the action forward. So we decided 3 years ago to start a project called Vault. So Vault as a bank vault, how to lock and protect the data we have in our systems to make sure that no one can, intercept it, change it without a proper confirmation of this data. Obviously, Danone is a very big company, so like a lot of our companies. So we cannot do this with just human effort and manual effort. We need obviously to have partnership with companies like Trustpair, which is the partner we selected, to help us do this at scale, so really to check thousands of records. And this happens every day, so this is a daily operation that we need to do. So this project Vault has been really put in place with the objective, and we are very happy to have been on this journey. And when we see on the slide objective zero fraud, this objective never ends for us, right? So we keep working on this objective every single day. And so we, I think, are in a journey against cybercrime, and we have to continue to operate this journey and try to figure out what are the new protection layers we need to do. In any case, for Danone, we went on this journey to set up a more secure process, and Trustpair has been a partner, a very key partner on that. So I'll give the floor to my colleague Grzegorz, who will tell you a little bit how we made it happen.
Thank you, Mauro. ABSL, thank you for invitation. Trustpair as well. So a couple of words about deployment, but before that, a question. How many of you have a goal to improve vendor data today? Yes, very valid question. So let me share a bit about Project Vault, how we actually executed that. Mauro mentioned that. So the objective was to focus on cleansing vendor master data. Now, we decided to pick up the first batch of data that we have, focus on specific countries. We decided on Central Eastern Europe, Nordic, Baltics, and we partnered with Trustpair to scan the data through their solution that help us to identify what are the companies that are really still active, operational, and what are the bank accounts that are really still active. And do we have a correlation between those two elements? So that's what we did. So we audited, we cleansed, and then in the next step, migrated to centralized SAP system we use. So that was the pilot. So what is really interesting to highlight is that we really partnered with Trustpair and Trustpair helped us to build the governance for this project. So we had support and guidance of technical consultants. We had a dedicated global project manager, and we also had weekly Q&As, monthly governance meeting that really help us to challenge this objective that we put into ourselves, and it has to be done in parallel of operations. So we had to focus on not creating any disruption. Now the pilot was really successful. We have been able to audit above 10,000 of our third parties and migrate it. And then now we are 9 months ahead. So we actually, when we look at the deployment, we covered already full Europe and Africa and Middle East, actually. So we have been able to verify above 65,000 of our suppliers and their bank accounts. So when we're talking about bank data information, we are talking about more than 120,000 of bank accounts that we verified. And now the focus is on moving to Asia and to America. But in parallel, what is important is that we have to secure running mode. So Trustpair became integral part of our vendor master data management. So at the very entry point of data, Trustpair is verifying the information, and we filter it, making sure that only valid and confirmed information goes into the system. Trustpair is able to verify 82% of scans within 72 hours. So we actually are able to keep our efficiency of the process, and we basically secured the main objective of this project, which was security. Back to you, Jeremy.
Thank you. Before we move into the last part of the presentation, two more things. The first one is we have been able, with Danone, to offer 70% of validation rate, which was one of our main goals, beside the zero fraud and 100% efficiency we were looking for. So now, and again, before moving to the very last part of this presentation, I have a last question, and this one will be anonymous. I will not ask you to raise your hands. I will ask you to use the application. So if you can share the QR code here. The question is, have you been victim of a fraud or not? It's purely anonymous, of course, but just to see and share the trend. I would be curious to know how you can be sure that you have not been victim of a fraud, because it takes a while before being aware about it. It takes the time that your vendor contacts you, but still, half of the people in the room have been victim of a fraud. And this number is getting higher and higher, as we can see at Trustpair, for now months and months. So definitely, there is something to do, and it's not a matter of if you will be attacked or subject to a fraud, it's when. And that's what we try to do. So, if we go to the conclusion for the few minutes we still have, the way we do it, and you know it has been the topics all afternoon, it's about AI and machine learning. But it's also about the service. And it doesn't matter if you want to do it standalone or if you want to be fully integrated. It doesn't matter if you want to manage your vendor data upstream or downstream in the process. What matters is that you have to look into it, try to deal with it, because we never talked about the impact of a fraud. We all think about the direct financial aspect of a fraud. But when you ask companies, the bigger impact, it's about logistics. It's about daily business. It's about relationship with vendors that has been damaged. And at the end of the day, it's about people. Because when you see the time, the energy, and the reputation of people that has been unfortunately victim of a fraud, this is the biggest problem. So again, I wanted to thank Danone for inviting us. I wanted to thank ABSL Summit for the organization. And with the team, we are available at the booth at the first floor to welcome you and maybe talk a bit more if it's needed. Thank you.